The Gods Yusuf El back again. I got a video for y'all. I'm going back into my training mode. And earlier I told y'all that I had a document, a training manual that gave you the definition of democracy and republic. And it's just not that. This document talks about socialism, communism, Marxism, all the things that are being warned about that are going on today. Now, this is a training manual. This is a military training manual. As you can see, the War Department, Washington, November 30th, 1928. And it's all dealing with citizenship. It's prepared under direction of the Chief of Staff. This manual supersedes the Manual of Citizenship Training. It says the use of this publication, The Constitution of the United States by Harry Atwood, is by permission and courtesy of the author. The source of other references is shown in the bibliography. And this is really, really interesting document I came across. And I had to hunt this down because, on the internet, they had a lot of people who, were just quoting from it. But I had to find the actual document, and I found it. And I put the link in the description, and I'm going to urge you to download it. Now, also, I'm going to urge people to follow me on Instagram. It's at yusuf.l.19. Make sure you follow me on Instagram. I have to start, kind of spreading this out on different social media platforms because YouTube is, it's just in my opinion, I think YouTube is in and Facebook and all of those are Zionist control, and they are trying to institute socialism within this country. So, I know I'm being shadow, what do they call it? Repressed in some kind of way. They're, preventing my videos from getting out from everyone. But the link is in the description. I would suggest everybody who is a patriot, an American citizen of the United States of America, read this particular document. And I'm going to go through it a little bit with you. And as you can see, it has an introduction, and it's a course. Now, the part that we're interested in, I'm going to go over here straight to this section right here. Individual initiative. Now, this is where we get into the discussion where a lot of people don't understand socialism. And it took me a little while to understand it myself, and Marxism and communism. And this has become the property of the left. Okay. And a lot of people think, well, you're just supporting Donald Trump. I'm not supporting Donald Trump. It's not necessarily I'm for Donald Trump. It's just I'm against communism, socialism, and Marxism, because I happen to know that it goes against the laws of nature. And I think that it is spelled out very nicely in this particular document. So let's look at it real quick. Let's take a look at it. It says right here in section 93 on page 65, mankind, a massive individual ego. Psychology and social science have discovered that mankind is made up of a massive individual ego, each revealing similar characteristics of instincts, idiosyncrasies, and manifestations of selfish interest, in the control of which his intelligence has developed forms of government. From earliest childhood, self-assertion, self-determination, self-preservation manifest themselves. It is human nature for the strong to take advantage of the weak, whether it be strength of body, strength of mind, or strength of a group. That group may be a minority in numbers, yet all-powerful by reason of the forces under its control. The chief purpose of government is that of controlling this instinct and directing it into channels through which society may gain the greatest benefit. All right, and I like that, because it talks about the nature of man, and what government's purpose is to restrain that nature. And later on in this document, it's going to get to the purpose of government, stated so beautifully that everybody needs to copy it and understand what the purpose of government is. But first, let's look at the two forms of government. Two forms of government. One form of government gives the state the supreme control and places all its citizens upon a common level of equal condition. And this is communism that they're describing right now, socialism. The other recognizes the rights of the individual as greater than the government and emphasizes the superiority of equality of opportunity and contrast with equality of condition. Okay, and collectivistic government, equality of condition. In this system of government, stress is laid upon the proposition that all men are created equal, meaning that no man has a right to that which is denied to another. That any system of government failing to recognize and conform to this ideal is wrong, and therefore an enemy of society and a foe of mankind. The ignorant, illiterate, physically and mentally deficient, the lazy, improvident, and reckless have equal right with the alert, aggressive, busy, educated, high-minded, orderly citizen who aspires to be the best and is willing to pay the price of attainment through self-discipline, hard work, and careful management. It is not in human nature to recognize equality of condition except to acquire personal advantage. One may be willing to divide individual property with the third and fourth individual, providing the share remaining to him is something more than the formerly possessed. Denial of personal rights. And now we get into collectivism and socialism. Collectivism is the denial of personal rights. The state, community, becomes the chief concern of all. It claims that the law of equality, once applied, would destroy every human desire for individual dominance, making society safe, content, comfortable, and happy. This ideal is to be accomplished by the application of force under the direction of leaders in the selection of whom the people will have little or no choice. It is necessary at first to enforce the will of community interests until the people become educated and submissive to the new order. Denied all personal rights, collectivism gives it instructions where to live, where to work, what to do, what to think, and what to say, for the state is the law. And then also, let's look at the confiscation of private property. Collectivism declares that the possession of property has developed protection of property through governments, courts, police power, and public opinion, making it difficult for one to acquire private property except by work. Private property must be abolished so that all will live on a plane of equal condition. As a matter of fact, however, human nature will see to it that the equal condition will very quickly become an equal condition of misery, want, and discontent. And this is why I say it goes against the laws of nature, because how are you going to control a man's desire? This is something to quell men's desire, and they're going to have to do that either by drugging you up, killing an awful lot of people. I mean, you can see how when you really think about this, you begin to see how evil, socialism is. Let's keep going. I would also advise people, I'm going to let you read the first chapter of the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion, where these people basically tell you that, hey, all men are not equal in reason and rationale. As a matter of fact, let's read that right now, because I think that's a good segue for this right now. Let's read it. Okay, and I did an interesting thing and found out that the FBI has tweeted out that, I mean, look at this, y'all. Wildly irresponsible, the FBI bashed for tweeting link to anti-Semitic Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion. And, they do that just like in court. You'll say something in court, then they say, hey, strike that from the record. But it's already been said. Okay, somebody put this out here because they want you to start reading it. This is recent, too. This was just, in August. All right, so let's read some portions of the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion. Okay, so back again. This is coming from the FBI. This is on the FBI website. I put the link in the description. So the FBI has a copy of this. See, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Freedom of Information Act. All right, so let's go down here. Protocols. Blow it up a little bit. This is worth reading. Protocols, Learned Elders of Zion, of the meetings of the Learned Elders of Zion. Now, this is their playbook for everything that is happening right now. All right, you can see just recently that all the information coming out on Joe Biden's son and his connection with communist Russia and the Jewish oligarchs over there, okay, and the money that he was receiving, Twitter has tried to hide that fact, as well as Facebook. All these are Jewish-controlled social media platforms as well. If you do your research, you'll see this. Now, let's read this, though, and see, what these Zionists are trying to say about your intelligence and how they started out, okay? It says, special request. Kind reader, will you please help to broadcast this message of warning throughout the entire world? You can do so by passing this along to a friend. Better yet, by having more printed and distributed, or by translating it into other languages and disseminating it into every corner of the earth. Goes on, it says, the protocols consist of 24 documents, first published in Russian, 1905, by Sergei Nilus. In 1906, copies were placed in the British Museum. Jewish authorities, naturally, denied the authenticity of these documents. They're going to do that, as they always do. In an interview, February 17, 1921, given publicly in the New York World by Henry Ford, expressing himself in regards to the protocols, said, they fit in with what is going on. And I say the same thing. I come back and read this all the time. The New World Order that they are now starting to openly talk about fits perfectly within everything that is being discussed in this document. The Nilus document in Russian were translated into English by a Russian correspondent for the Morning Post. He is quoted, Britain Public Society, whose copy was used for this reprint, as saying that during the work of the translation, the diabolical spirit of the matter, which he was obliged to turn into English, made him positively ill. The work probably cost him his life. Protocol means minutes of a procedure. In this case, it is alleged to mean the minutes of a proceeding of the learned elders of Zion, Lucifer's pawns, in the form of addresses delivered to an innermost circle of the rulers of Zion. The truth of the protocols is proved as you would prove the text in an arithmetic, or as you would prove the existence of electricity by pushing the electric button. The protocols are proved in the manners, habits, customs, and behavior of the Jews themselves, and by the results which have followed Jewish participation in civil, social, industrial, financial, and political problems. The Jews have indeed lived up to the protocols. Perhaps the protocols alone can be depended upon to reveal to the deluded socialists their illusion and how they were outwitted by an intricate, intriguing plot too complex for the average mind to interpret. The same applies to modern Christianity. Comparing Jewish propaganda, practices, and intrigue with the spirit and letter of the protocols reveals the clandestine Antichrist attack upon Christianity. Sovietism in Russia became the great protagonist of protocolist intentions. Judaism became socialism by invention, organizing and controlling the movement. At first, the socialists were promised an end to exploitation and were deluded into believing that socialism was to bring about the end of rent, interest, and profits, and also to bring about a democratic society. The protocols and the Russian sample of Sovietism reveal that Judaism means to rule over a world slavery of all other races by a mythical king of the Jews, carrying out a fabricated demagoguery that the Jews are a chosen people of God. Judaism means to dictate a state which owns, operates, and controls all production, distribution, and short, everything. Government is an absolute autocracy. The paternalistic state is to become I can't read that, profiteer, I guess. The people are to become robots, and the Gentiles, goyim cattle, are to come into complete bondage. This is the serpent scheme of world control in opposition to the plan of the Lord God Almighty, whose only Son, Jesus Christ, will eventually crush all the forces of Satan, whose 10 soldiers, the elders of Zion, are and rule the world supreme. Interest and profiteering are not to be done away with, but will become the most important function of the state and the private owners of money and credits. The world is to be bonded for an oppressive amount, the interest on which will tax labor to the unendurable limit. The world panic was plotted and planned and manufactured for the purpose of creating this bondage in the form of bonds to exceed the world's wealth and an interest burden for greater than the procedures can bear. This is the perfected capitalism, all for the purpose of supporting an inner clique of greedy Jews and extravagant luxury. How well they must have served their master, that clown who would be king, the devil. Did you ever hear anything so incredibly ridiculous? I certainly could not even imagine that any race of humans could be so unbelievably dense. After accumulating the wealth of the world, the next thing which the money mongers had to decide was what to do with the accumulated wealth of the world, how to make it secure and make it bring interest forever. The answer is socialism, Bolshevism, Sovietism. The magic formula is government ownership, management and control of everything by a paternalistic autocracy, Russia is the first outstanding and wretched example. Which will be next? In perfect accord with the protocols, the Jews are borrowing and bonding the unsuspecting Russian people into an inhuman robot peonage, which is to be a comparative hell alongside the former peasantry under the Tsar. Russia is not only borrowing at home, but abroad. The Soviet state is guaranteeing the interest to be paid to the private owners of money, but of course the principal will never be paid. The precedent of moratoriums is already established. Bonds now coming due are paid with more bonds. Then we have the spectacle of hunger bonds, all going out and nothing coming in. The rascally Jews will not permit a resumption of proper production and distribution. They want the burden of bonds to be made so great that there can never be any hope of repayment. Then will the interest made perfect forever be adequate to satisfy the Jews' idea of the perfect capitalistic exploitation by usury. Financial interests have plotted devilishly to bankrupt the world and to bring it into receivership, which means world peonage, because a bonded world is slave to the bondholders. Less perhaps than 100 colossal estates will own the world's bonds. This means that less than 100 colossal estates owned by a few fat, greasy Jews will be the world's masters. Ha ha ha, yo, ha ha ha, yo ho ho, ha ha ha. This is certainly the world's very best joke. Some authorities estimate that the whole indebtedness of the USA, taxable against production, amounts to over $300 billion. Salaries and wages of the whole country amounts to around $35 billion. At 7%, the interest on $300 billion equals $21 billion yearly. It is therefore apparent that we are already in bondage beyond our capacity to pay even the interest. In miserable Russia, the Jews are less than 5% of the population, yet they hold over 90% of the official positions. Russians and Jews are very much different, yet Russia is governed by a mere handful of unprincipled Jews. The 95% of Russians have only a 10% say so about their own government, and even the 10% in office are but lickspittle fronts to the domineering Jews. To the reasoning mind, such a condition of affairs seems impossible, yet the condition exists in fact. A careful study of the protocols alone will clear up the mystery. We are all of us more or less dumb to be deceived, but the elders of Zion are dumber for being such willing tools, while the devil is dumbest of all. Goyim means Gentile or cattle. So this is what I want to get to. And I think that was a very good introduction. When you start studying socialism, what the Democrats are doing, 85% of Jews are Democrats. All right. They're on that side over there. And there's a reason for that, because the Democratic Party is nothing but a socialist communist party right now. And they're trying to get you dependent on government. This is what I'm seeing. Okay. And a lot of people in their mind, they think that's a good thing. Hey, make everybody equal, tax the rich, all these different things that people who are unable to marshal up enough spiritual power to chase after their dreams and make them materialize want. Persistent thoughts of lack and limitation, and don't understand that the power that they have within their own spirit is all that they need to be happy on this world. But they refuse to do that. They're jealous. They have all the negative emotions that you're seeing being demonstrated on the Democratic side of the equation. But I just want to read protocol number 1 to you real quick. And it goes on, it says, what then about to set forth then is our system for the 2 points of view, that of ourselves and that of the Goyim, namely non-Jews. And that's what it is. Goyim are referred to, or Gentiles. That's the same thing. And this is the part I want you to pay attention. I'm going to go back to the other document. It must be noted that men with bad instincts are more in number than the good, and therefore the best results in governing them are attained by violence and terrorization and not by academic discussion. Rare indeed are the men who would not be willing to sacrifice the welfare of all for the sake of securing his own welfare. Men are but beasts of prey. Political freedom is an idea, but not a fact. In our day, the power which has replaced that of the rulers is the power of gold. Time was when faith ruled. The idea of freedom is impossible of realization because no one knows how to use it with moderation. When a state exhausts itself in its own convulsions through internal discords or external foes, it becomes irretrievably lost and is soon in our power. The despotism of capital, which is entirely in our hands, reaches out to it, a straw that the state willy-nilly must take hold of. If not, it goes to the bottom. And that's all I wanted to show you, is that up here, you are looked at as, hey, you don't have good reasoning skills, which is abundantly apparent because a lot of people can't see what's going on. They really can't see it. So now when I get back to our military document, you can see right here where they give you the definition of socialism. Socialism kills. The doctrine of socialism is collectivism. It tears down the social structure, weakens individual responsibility by subjection to or reliance upon the state in all material, social, and political matters. It compels the thought that at his best, man is no better than his worst. He loses his self-respect and his keener sense of moral and ethical values. Ambition is nullified by restriction of choice in occupation and reward of attainment. Initiative, the very backbone of all progress, is smothered in the morass of impersonal service, mass civility, and mob inertia. Socialism aims to save individuals from the difficulties of hardships, of the struggle for existence, and the competition of life through calling upon the state to carry the burden for them. Equality of condition, the ruling law of collectivism, is the death knell alike to individual liberty, justice, and progress through the destruction of individual and national character. When the citizens of a nation seeking comforts and pleasure find no joy or satisfaction in hard work, the years of that nation are numbered. Free bread and the circus mark the declining days of Rome. A surfeit of food, clothes, comfortable homes, and much time for idleness can easily become the first step to the overthrow of civilization. And that was your definition of socialism. So let's get down here now and let's look at, and this is a good book. You should read the whole book. This whole book is good. 1928 Military Training Manual. All right. So let's get down here and look at delegated national power. This is good, man, showing you everything about the country. This is so good. All right, right here, socialism, communism, anarchy, which is what you see going on with Black Lives Matter and all that. The leaders done told you that they are Marxist, communists. They creating anarchy in the streets. The problems of capital and labor, employer, employee cannot be solved by unrepublican methods. The suggestion of special legislation is socialistic and communistic in its theory and wholly repugnant to the American character. Socialism or communism, which negates property rights, anarchy, which negates law, the substitution of direct action for representative government, a government ownership, all should be avoided as perils that threaten the very foundation of this republic. Once again, we're a republic. Ignorance of the citizens. Let's look at this. Webster said, on the diffusion of education among the people rests the preservation and perpetuity of our free institutions. In the early colonies, one of the first buildings to be erected was the schoolhouse. Here was laid, developed, and subsequently spread the ideals of liberty. One of the foundation stones of representative government is education. An intelligent and informed citizen is an asset to the nation. The great educational system of America makes it possible for every citizen to best fit himself for the task of life. In the common schools, all are taught a common language, a knowledge of American traditions, ideals, and philosophy of government. Through education, the barrier that separates the citizen from the greater enjoyment of his freedom is removed. A better understanding of American ideas is established, and the influence of subversive propaganda is in large measure destroyed. Look at this, knowledge concerning the Constitution. For a proper appreciation of our government, the citizen should know what the Constitution is and what it contains. The selection and combination of these elements was a master achievement of vision, ability, and governmental genius on the part of the delegates to the convention. Atwood. He should thoroughly understand the purpose of government as set forth in the preamble to the Constitution, that the Constitution establishes a strictly representative form of government, and that the general provisions in regard to amending the Constitution when necessary. All of this is essential to his proper regard for the sterling worth of our beneficent heritage. The only antidote to the erroneous and dangerous ideas of government now rampant through the world and threatening America is a better understanding of the meaning, value, and importance of our American philosophy of government as set up in the Constitution. This will most effectively meet the propaganda of communism in its attack on our social, economic, political, and national institutions, which aims to destroy the family as the foundation of society. Our system of now I want y'all to go back and read Black Lives Matter and go and see on their webpage and everything. That's what they're trying to do with all the gay stuff and all of that. They want to destroy the family foundation. Our system of capitalism, which has produced the great economic success of America, our Republican form of government, and our spirit of patriotism. And you'll see people in the comment section try to talk about capitalism because they socialists and communists. They're not spiritually educated, and they're not politically educated as well. They just want something for nothing. The preservation of the sacred fire of liberty and the destiny of the Republican model of government are justly considered as deeply, perhaps as finally, staked on the experiment and trusted to the hands of the American people. Washington. If in our case the representative system ultimately fail, popular governments must be pronounced impossible. No combination of circumstances more favorable to the experiment can ever be expected to occur. The last hopes of mankind, therefore, rest with us. And if it should be proclaimed that our example had become an arrangement against the experiment, the knell of popular liberty would be sounded throughout the earth. Webster. And let's get up here. I think I missed democracy. And finally, we get to our comparative analysis. The following comparative analysis shows the principal characteristics of the three forms of government. So we have an autocracy. Authority is derived through heredity. People have no choice in the selection of the rulers and no voice in making of the laws. Results in arbitrariness, tyranny, and oppression. Attitude toward property is feudalistic. Attitude toward law is that the will of the ruler shall control regardless of reason or consequences. And then we have democracy, a government of the masses, authority derived through mass meeting or any other form of direct expression, results in mobocracy. And I always said that it's mob rule. That's what it is mob rule. Attitude toward property is communistic, negating property rights. Attitude toward law is that the will of the majority shall regulate, whether it be based upon deliberation or governed by passion, prejudice, and impulse without restraint or regard to consequences. And this is what you see, everything coming from the left is all emotional. Racism, everything that they talking about is all emotional in nature. Results in demagogism, license, agitation, discontent, anarchy. All right, now, let's look at what a republic is. Authority is derived through the election of the people of public officials, best fitted to represent them. Attitude toward property is respect for laws and individual rights and a sensible economic procedure. Attitude toward law is the administration of justice in accord with fixed principles and established evidence with a strict regard to consequences. A greater number of citizens and extent of territory may be brought within its compass. Avoids the dangerous extreme of either tyranny or mobocracy. Results in statesmanship, liberty, reason, justice, contentment, and progress. Is the standard form of government throughout the world. A republic is a form of government under the Constitution which provides for the election of, number one, an executive, and number two, a legislative body who, working together in a representative capacity, have all the power of appointment, all power of legislation, all power to raise revenue and appropriate expenditures, and are required to create. Number three, a judiciary to pass upon the justice and legality of their governmental acts and to recognize, number four, certain inherent individual rights. Take away any one of those four elements and you are drifting into autocracy. Add one or more to those four elements and you're drifting into democracy. Atwood. Wow. So there it is. There's your definition of democracy. The link is in the description. I think I've said enough.
We're people of faith, Joe Biden and I, Kamala Harris said the other night.